Good morning, a beautiful day. I found everything I needed right here.
I'm so glad we get to do this.
Me too, this is lovely. I always feel so safe with you. You are my absolute everything.
Imagine falling in love with a perfect woman, only to find out she's your father's separate wife. This is the shocking reality of the Obi wealthy family. Drop a comment right now and tell us where in the world you're watching this video from.
In a very big and beautiful city in Nigeria, there lived a very rich man named Samuel Obi, who had more money and treasures than anyone could ever count. Samuel Obi was a man that everyone in the city knew because he owned so many massive buildings that touched the sky, shiny cars that made a loud and beautiful sound when they drove down the road, and beautiful businesses that brought him a lot of success every single day. He lived in a giant house that looked like a palace for a king, and inside this house everything was clean and sparkling with gold and bright lights. Samuel had two wonderful children who were already in their 20s, and their names were Chinedu and Aisha Bello. Both Chinedu and Aisha had finished going to the big university where they studied very hard and graduated with great big smiles on their faces, making their father very proud of them. The two siblings loved each other very much, and they enjoyed living a life of luxury where they could get anything they wanted, drive nice cars, and wear the most beautiful clothes that money could buy. Many people in the city looked at the Obi family with big eyes full of wonder because their life seemed so perfect and happy, and their kind mother loved them with all of her heart and always made sure they were safe and happy in their giant home. But Samuel Obi had a very big secret that he did not tell his children or his main family, because he had recently met a very beautiful young lady named Umwari Nasira and decided to marry her. Umwari Nasira was a very stunning woman with dark shiny skin that looked like smooth silk, and she had the most beautiful long hair that bounced whenever she walked down the street. Because Samuel did not want anyone in his main house to know about this new marriage yet, he bought a completely separate, beautiful house for Nasira to live in, so she could be comfortable and have everything she needed without anyone asking questions. Samuel would spend some of his time working at his big offices, some of his time resting with his children Chinedu and Aisha in the main mansion, and then he would secretly move away to visit the young and beautiful Nasira in her own quiet home. Nasira loved the comfortable life that Samuel provided for her, but she often stayed by herself in her house, wondering when she would get to meet the rest of the people in Samuel's life. She spent her days taking care of her beautiful hair, dressing up in nice clothes, and sometimes taking walks through the busy, crowded streets of the Nigerian city just to see the bright markets and feel the warm breeze. Everything seemed to be going perfectly according to Samuel's secret plan, but he had no idea that the busy city was about to bring two people together in a way that would change their lives forever. The bright sun was shining down heavily on the busy streets of the Nigerian city as Chinedu decided to take a walk through the crowded town center to clear his head after a long week of resting since his graduation from the big university. The air was filled with the loud sounds of market women calling out to people to buy their fresh fruits, the colorful yellow buses honking their horns loudly as they moved through the traffic, and many people rushing up and down the sidewalks to get to their various destinations. Chinedu was dressed in very nice, expensive, casual clothes that showed he came from a very wealthy home, and he walked with a slow and relaxed pace because he had nowhere important to rush to on this warm afternoon. As he navigated his way through the sea of people who were busy buying and selling near the roadside shops, his eyes suddenly caught sight of a truly beautiful lady who was walking gracefully in the exact opposite direction. This lady was none other than Umwari Nasira, who had grown tired of staying inside her quiet house all day and had decided to come outside to feel the vibrant energy of the city and enjoy the fresh air. Her dark, shiny skin glinted beautifully under the golden Nigerian sunshine, and her long, lovely hair bounced softly against her shoulders with every single step she took, making her stand out from everyone else in the crowded market. Chinedu stopped walking for a brief moment because he was completely captivated by her immense beauty, and he felt a strong desire in his heart to approach her and say hello before she disappeared into the large crowd of people. He quickly adjusted his clothes and stepped forward with a warm, polite smile on his face, calling out to her softly so that he could get her attention without causing a scene in the middle of the busy road. Nasira turned around with surprise in her eyes, but when she saw the handsome young man with a gentle smile looking at her so kindly, her initial shock turned into a beautiful, shy smile that made her look even more attractive to him. They began to talk right there on the side of the street, introducing themselves using their names, though neither of them had any idea that they were actually connected through Samuel Obi, who was Chinedu's wealthy father and Nasira's secret husband. They started walking along the road together, sharing light-hearted jokes and talking about their favorite things, and they found that their conversation flowed so naturally and easily, as if they had known each other for many years. The busy town around them seemed to disappear completely as they focused entirely on each other's words, and as the afternoon began to fade into a cooler evening, Chinedu suggested that they should leave the crowded market streets and go together to the beautiful beach where they could sit down, relax, and continue their wonderful conversation in a much more peaceful and romantic setting. The warm afternoon sun began to dip lower in the sky, painting the clouds with beautiful shades of orange and pink as Chinedu Okafor and Umwari Nasira arrived at the wide, sandy beach to enjoy the peaceful atmosphere away from the noisy city streets. The giant waves of the ocean were rolling in gently, making a soft and soothing sound as the white foam washed over the wet sand and cooled the air around them. They took off their shoes so they could feel the soft, warm sand beneath their feet, walking side by side near the edge of the water while the cool ocean breeze blew softly through Nasira's beautiful long hair. Chinedu could not take his eyes off her because she looked so happy and peaceful in the evening light, and he felt his heart beating faster and faster with every smile she directed toward him. They found a quiet spot under a tall palm tree where they could sit down together, and they began to talk even more deeply about their lives, their dreams, and the things that made them happy. Nasira laughed at all of Chinedu's funny stories, her dark shiny skin glowing beautifully under the setting sun, and Chinedu listened to her voice like it was the sweetest music he had ever heard in his entire life. As the hours passed by, and the stars began to blink into existence across the dark blue sky, the connection between the two young people grew incredibly strong, and they realized that they were falling deeply in love with each other. They held hands as they watched the reflection of the silver moon dancing on top of the moving ocean water, feeling a deep sense of comfort and joy that neither of them had ever experienced with anyone else before. Chinedu told Nasira how special she was and how he wanted to spend much more time with her in the future, promising to take her to more beautiful places and take care of her because he believed she was the most amazing woman in the world. Nasira felt her heart melt at his kind and loving words, and she gladly accepted his affection, completely unaware that this handsome young man who was making her feel so loved was actually the firstborn son of her secret husband, Samuel Obi. They stayed at the beach for a very long time, enjoying the sweet romance and talking about how they would meet again very soon, before Chinedu finally escorted her safely back toward her area, both of them feeling incredibly happy and eager for the bright future they were planning to build together. A few days had passed since that beautiful and romantic evening at the sandy beach, and Umwari Nasira was sitting quietly inside her comfortable living room, thinking deeply about Chinedu and smiling to herself as she remembered the sweet words he had spoken to her under the silver moonlight. Suddenly, the heavy wooden front door of her house opened, and Samuel Obi walked inside with his usual powerful step, wearing an expensive traditional outfit that showed his immense wealth and status as one of the richest men in the entire city. Samuel moved toward his young wife with a big smile on his face, greeting her warmly and asking how she had been coping with staying alone in the big house while he was busy running his vast business empire and attending to his various responsibilities. Nasira quickly hid her thoughts about Chinedu and welcomed Samuel with a polite smile, serving him some cold water to drink while he relaxed on the soft, luxurious sofa to shake off the tiredness of his long day. Samuel looked at his beautiful wife, admiring her dark shiny skin and her neatly arranged hair, and he decided that the time had finally come to stop keeping her a complete secret from the people he loved the most in the world. He took her hand gently and told her that he had a very important request to make, explaining that he wanted her to come and visit his main family mansion the very next day, so that he could formally introduce her to his two grown children, Chinedu and Aisha. Nasira felt her heart skip a beat with a mixture of excitement and nervousness because she knew how important family was, but she gladly allowed the arrangement and told Samuel that she would be very happy to honor his invitation and meet the children he spoke about so proudly. Samuel was incredibly happy with her response, telling her not to worry about anything because his children were well-educated graduates who would definitely welcome her with open arms and respect, and he promised to send a driver to pick her up in the afternoon. After spending some more time discussing the plans for the grand family dinner and making sure everything was perfectly set, Samuel Obi kissed her goodbye and drove back to his giant palace to inform his household that a very special guest would be arriving the next day, completely unaware that his well-meaning invitation was about to set off a massive wave of shock that would turn his entire family upside down. The afternoon sun was bright and beautiful as the expensive, shiny car sent by Samuel Obi drove through the massive iron gates of the Grand Obi estate and came to a smooth stop right in front of the giant palace doors. Umwari Nasira stepped out of the vehicle looking absolutely stunning in her finest traditional attire, her dark, shiny skin glowing perfectly in the daylight, and her beautiful long hair neatly styled for this very important family meeting. Her heart was beating quite fast with a mixture of nervousness and excitement as she walked up the marble stairs, wondering how Samuel's children would receive her, but she took a deep breath to calm her mind and stepped through the wide front doors into the luxurious living room. Inside the magnificent living room, Samuel Obi was standing proudly next to his two children, Chinedu and Aisha Bello, who were both dressed in beautiful clothes and waiting to see the special guest their father had been talking about all morning. Chinedu was smiling warmly, expecting to meet a completely stranger, while Aisha stood elegantly by his side, ready to welcome whoever their father had brought home to join their family circle. As Nasira walked fully into the center of the room, her eyes lifted up to meet the family, and in that exact same moment, Chinedu's eyes locked onto her face, causing the warm smiles on both of their faces to freeze instantly as a heavy, icy silence rushed over the entire room. Nasira let out a sharp gasp of pure horror and covered her mouth with her hands as her eyes went wide with shock, because the handsome young man standing before her as Samuel's son was none other than Chinedu, the exact same boy she had fallen deeply in love with at the beach. Chinedu felt his entire world spinning around him, and his knees grew weak as he stared at the beautiful woman he had held hands with under the moonlight, realizing with absolute terror that the lady of his dreams was actually his father's secret wife. Samuel Obi looked at his son and then at his young wife, feeling completely confused by the sudden looks of horror on their faces, and he loudly demanded to know what was wrong and how they could possibly know each other. The painful truth could no longer be hidden as Chinedu, with tears forming in his eyes, looked at his wealthy father and shakingly confessed that this was the beautiful lady he had met in town and given his heart to, while Aisha stood by the side with her hands on her head, completely speechless at the unbelievable sight before her. Samuel Obi staggered backward onto the soft sofa as the heavy weight of the shocking truth hit his heart, realizing that his own secret life had accidentally led his beloved son into a tragic web of love with his own stepmother. The giant, luxurious mansion that was once filled with so much pride and joy was suddenly filled with a heavy sadness and confusion, as all four of them stood in the beautiful room, staring at each other while trying to understand how a simple walk in the busy city had brought their lives into such a shocking and heartbreaking reality. The heavy silence inside the giant living room felt longer and deeper than any night, as the beautiful gold clock on the wall ticked loudly, while Samuel, Chinedu, Aisha, and Nasira all stood completely frozen in their spots, trying to understand the massive shock that had just broken their hearts into pieces. Tears rolled down Nasira's dark, shiny skin as she looked at Chinedu with eyes full of sorrow, knowing deep inside her heart that the sweet romance they had started at the beautiful sandy beach could never continue, because honor and family respect were much more important than any feelings they shared.
Thank you for watching J African Tales. We will see you in the next story.